Anthony Rogers used a text attributed to Jerome in order to support the thesis that the Protestant doctrine of sola fide is to be found in the early Church Fathers. The citation of this text was on the sole grounds that the text explicitly uses the term sola fide.
From St. Jerome. I'm sorry this is not available online. This is, as far as I know, still untranslated from the Latin, so I've provided you here with the Latin translation of Jerome. But he says, for being ignorant of the justice of God, that is, righteousness of God, and seeking to establish their own, the Jews, they have not submitted themselves to the justice of God, not knowing that God justifies by faith alone, sola fide, in the Latin, literally, sola fide, and thinking that they are just by the works of the law, which they did not observe, they would not submit themselves to the remission of sins, lest they should appear to have been sinners. So they wouldn't admit that they were sinners so that they might be justified by faith alone. They wouldn't submit themselves to that, and for that reason sought to be justified by their works of the law, which they did not even observe. But again, St. Jerome refers to it as being justified.
What Anthony didn't realize is that he actually quoted a pseudo-Jeromean text. Namely, the text is a misattribution to Jerome and actually belongs to Pelagius.
It's from Pelagius.
Pelagius himself uses sola fide language, but everyone knows that it is nowhere even close to the Protestant notion of sola fide. Now, the dilemma for Anthony is as follows. If Anthony admits that he made a mistake, then it is an admission that the mere appearance of the term sola fide in the Church Fathers is insufficient to establish the Protestant doctrine by that name. That he took the quote out of context, that he cannot dismiss the text on the grounds that it is from Pelagius. If Anthony knew beforehand that the text is from Pelagius, then he wouldn't have used it. In other words, he cannot dismiss the pseudo-Jerome text based on the personality of Pelagius after the fact. And it demonstrates Anthony's ignorance of the Church Fathers. On the other hand, if Anthony does not admit he made a mistake, then it is irreparable damage putting into question anything he quotes from the Church Fathers. At this point, he becomes wholly unreliable in his citation of Church Fathers. Now, how do we know the pseudo-Jerome text is Pelagian? I take the following points as courtesy from Perry Robinson. Read Pelagius' commentary on Romans. Read the last 500 years' worth of scholarly discussions of the text, including Protestant scholars. When Augustine and other critics of Pelagius cite Pelagius, they cite this text. Some of the material exists in no other text of Pelagius but this text. The text in Pseudo-Jerome exists pretty much exactly as it does in 3 manuscripts of Pelagius' commentary. There are no contradictions between the 2 texts as far as Pelagius' theology is concerned. Namely, 1. Pelagius is just fine with excluding works prior to baptism from contributing to justification. 2. Pelagius is just fine with faith as a naturally produced condition. 3. The Pelagians were just fine with the idea that faith reaches up and lays hold of Christ by faith alone, meaning primarily by that virtue, whereas Augustine believes Christ reaches down and lays hold of us. Augustine, as well as many other anti-Pelagians, affirm that pagans can have natural virtues apart from grace. That is the entire point of Augustine's distinction of natural versus supernatural virtues. There's nothing here that expresses the idea that the virtues of the pagans apart from grace contribute to justification. If you wish to claim it contradicts Pelagius' teaching, then you'll need to provide a demonstration that it does so and how it does so. And side-by-side comparisons of Pseudo-Jerome and Pelagius' commentary on Romans 10:3 does not exhibit any substantial differences. Even if we disregard the Pseudo-Jerome text altogether, Anthony still needs to explain how Pelagius likely understood sola fide, because Pelagius did not believe in the Protestant notion of the doctrine by that name. In other words, it would be an inevitable admission by Anthony that the term sola fide on its own does absolutely no work. You absolutely need context. One cannot a priori conclude that the Church Fathers taught the Protestant understanding of sola fide on the sole grounds of a keyword search. This all culminates in the conclusion that we've been saying all along. Quote mining the entire patristic corpus for the term sola fide gets you nowhere when you don't provide the requisite analysis and context. And when you provide the context, then one realizes that the Protestant doctrine of sola fide quite simply is not taught by the Church Fathers. It is a heretical doctrine invented in the 16th century.
It's from Pelagius.